Welcome back to the Trenchless Table, guys. Today we have a special guest from right here in Bryan, Ohio. Before I introduce who it is, I want to tell you that you're going to question, why the heck do you have this guy on your construction podcast? But what I want you to listen to is sometimes, most of the time, there's an overlap in business practices. So listen to those wherever you're listening, watching. I want you guys to let us know in the comments what takeaways you got out of this conversation. So without further ado, I want to introduce Bill Martin of the Spangler Candy Company. You guys might know them as the sweet treats like Dum Dums suckers, Necco wafers, my personal favorite, Bit of Honey. So Bill, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Lee. It's great to be here. It's kind of an amazing experience to be asked by a former baseball player of mine from how many years ago now? Probably
the picture I shared a second ago was 2010. So
yeah, 15 years ago.
Yep.
15 years ago, I never would have imagined Cole would have asked me to do this. This is a pretty cool thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, when we started talking about who we wanted on for the podcast, we had some people around Bryan, and Spangler came up in conversation right off the bat. So love what you guys are doing in the community. You know, across the board, we see you guys everywhere, sponsoring stuff, being part of everything.
Yeah, thank you. That's just part of our DNA. That's just who we are. We've been around since 1906, and Bryan's our home, and we really love it. We really want to be here forever.
And while we're on that, Bill, give us a 30,000-foot view of Spangler Candy. You've been here, a staple in the community for a long time, and kind of tee us up. I mean, everywhere I travel, the guy from Bryan, Ohio, they always go, "Where's Bryan, Ohio?" I said, "You ever had a Dum Dum sucker? You ever played with an Etch-a-Sketch?" Right? There's the two things that people outside of this world, outside of our community, kind of can relate to. So give us a 30,000-foot view of how long you been in business, where you guys come from, kind of how you got to where you're at today. And we'll just kick off this conversation and see where it goes.
Well, sure. First of all, thank you for inviting me here. It's amazing how many things we actually have in common.
Absolutely.
In our respective businesses. You may not think. And it's even funnier, Lee, you mentioned, why are we having this guy on here in a construction trade? Well, it's even crazier because I'm not very handy. Like I can't make anything or fix anything. So it is kind of ironic. But Spangler Candy has been around, since 1906. So we're 119 years old, and we're a family business, privately held, started by Arthur Spangler many years ago. And we're now into our fourth generation of Spangler leadership in management. Now, I'm not a family member. I'm not a Spangler. My last name's Martin. But they've treated me like family, from the very beginning. I've been there. This is my 26th year.
Oh, wow.
At Spangler Candy. And my boss, our chairman and CEO, is a fourth generation Spangler, and he's just fantastic to work with, one of the smartest guys I've ever met. He's got a Cornell undergrad education and an MBA from Michigan. So he's definitely a smart guy, and we have a lot of fun together along with our management team. But Spangler Candy obviously makes candy products, and we do ship all over the world. Primarily United States. Mm-hmm. And this is going to blow your mind. Now, I say this every time, and people are just like, well, this can't be possible. We don't really believe you. But every single day in Bryan, Ohio, we make 17 million pieces of candy on 3 production shifts. And one of the things we say in the candy industry, too, is that sometimes candy gets a bad rap, in terms of, being a sugar product or even chocolate. But candy itself, the studies have shown, is a very small piece of someone's diet. Mm-hmm. Like it's 2% of someone's daily calories. And so we talk about candy, and this is so true. It's really just a treat.
Yeah.
It's not for lunch. It's not for dinner. It's not intended to be meal replacement.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It's 2% of someone. If someone has 2,000 calories a day, and what they consume, candy is usually only 40 to 50 calories of that. So, we feel like we add to someone's enjoyment of life There's an emotional connection.
Mm-hmm.
There's a nostalgic connection to remembering your favorite flavor of Dum Dums or your favorite piece of candy. And we hear that all the time. It's not just, we don't just make this up. We hear it from our consumers all the time. It's amazing how many comments people make on Facebook about their favorite flavor of Dum Dum and the first time they ever had a Dum Dum, and when, how much their children love Dum Dums. But again, we really believe moderation is the key in everything relative to diet and health and wellness.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that when you go to the bank or you go to, you're in a waiting room someplace, it's kind of nice to have something, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a waiting room to go to the doctor, it helps to maybe relax somebody, takes their mind off maybe what they're there for. And so it is nostalgic. It is for me, because I travel all over the place. When I go to these places, I love to walk in and see the candy dish full of Dum Dums.
I bet that happens quite often.
Absolutely does.
It's certainly been known for that. And a Dum Dum's 25 calories.
Yeah.
Again, the average diet's 2,000 calories, so it's almost a rounding error.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 5 grams of sugar. So again, but everything in moderation, and we believe it adds to the enjoyment of life and not to the detriment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, now, I will say my kids are going to watch this podcast because it's about candy. You guys still have to do your chores to get candy, and 2% does not mean you get to just eat whatever you want.
It's funny you say that, Lee, because like motivation and rewards are a huge part of candy.
Yep.
Everything from potty training. Mm-hmm. I mean, 2 and 3-year-olds, if you want to convince them to be potty trained, let them know, hey, you get done in the restroom, we'll give you a Dum Dum. I'm telling you, you get it done in about 3 days.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they really love the motivation and the reward and the joy that comes from it.
Yeah. So before we get into the business side of things, since we're in more of lighthearted topics right now, what is your favorite flavor of Dum Dum?
That's a really good question because it changes from time to time, but I've always been a root beer fan. And if I see a bowl of Dum Dums, I'm just, for whatever reason, my eyes just go looking for the root beer.
So what's a flavor you guys are missing right now? If they came to you and said, hey, we need a new flavor of Dum Dum, what are you going to tell them?
If we need a new flavor of Dum Dums?
Yep.
Which one are we missing? I guess I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
So right now you have a lot of flavors, but if they came to you and they were like, Bill, we want to come out with a new flavor of Dum Dum, what are you going to tell them?
I've always wanted to do, this is just a local thing. Everybody local is going to get this. I've always wanted to do a Moe's Hopper flavor, from Sam's in Blakesley, the Blakesley, the Sam's restaurant in Blakesley. I just love their Moe's Hoppers, and I think everybody in Williams County does.
Little vanilla with a hint of cinnamon
like a little bit
on
of
it.
an ice cream
Yeah.
flavor.
I've
always wanted to do that, and unfortunately, Moe's Hopper is just kind of a local thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that would play nationally, but you never know until you try.
That's right. You heard it here first, guys. Sounds like Moe's Hopper coming soon.
Coming soon.
Spangler.
Let us know if that's what you want. Maybe give me
know.
some help here. I feel like I'm on an island. Give me some help.
All right. So a lot of context about the candy and things. Why we wanted to have Spangler and you here today, Bill, is you are a big community supporter, and we appreciate that. And for one of or the largest local employer, our goal is to talk about trades. And I believe that there's a lot of people with skilled trades that work inside of your 4 walls. And so what does that look like for Spangler? It's not just a factory. I was thinking about this. There's candy artists there that you guys have skilled trades for, electricians and mechanics and other things. So what does that look like for you guys, and how do you guys, I know you guys have a upskilling,
upskilling program.
Upskilling program. Yeah. I didn't know if I was saying that correctly, but give us a little bit of background about that and how you guys handle the trades in your industry.
Yeah, I'll do that. I mean, that's a very big, broad area, and we're running a factory. We're making 17 million pieces of candy a day. It's about 200,000 pounds of candy every day, and we literally have a closed loop production system where we're pumping sugar, corn syrup, ingredients throughout the plant. So that takes a lot of equipment, a lot of pipes, a lot of pumps. We have a lot of cookers. We have a lot of pre-cookers. We have a lot of maintenance that needs to be done on packaging equipment. I could go on and on and on, all the different needs for skilled trades. And, to be honest, we, in the past, we struggled a little bit here. We were having trouble attracting skilled trades workers, for the longest time. And again, I've been with the company 25 years. For the longest time, we just kept doing what we always did, which is
insanity,
a terrible sin in business. But for the longest time, we just did what we always did. If we lost a maintenance person due to retirement or someone left the company, we would just advertise for a maintenance person and try to fit them in what we have. And we weren't thinking big enough. We weren't thinking broadly enough about what a skilled trade is. And as time went on, we ran into this intersection of the new equipment that we're bringing in to produce our candy, whether it be in the kitchen or whether it be in the packaging areas, was a lot more complicated, required even maybe some engineering knowledge. And it was very difficult for all of us to keep up with that equipment. And we had to do a really hard look at what we were doing. And this took years to develop. It's going to sound crazy, but I tell you that, for the first 20 years I was here, we were trying to find a silver bullet, like a magical solution that would make this problem go away and always have the right number of mechanics on each shift, able to treat the right equipment at the right time. And it was just one of the most complicated sets of problems that I think I've ever encountered, to be honest. And, one of my roles at Spangler Candy Company is I help chair the union management committee. We do have a Teamsters union at Spangler. We've been with the Teamsters since 1959, so even before I was born. Gives you a little bit of idea how old I am. But anyhow, we've been with them a long, long time. And whenever there's been problems or issues, we sit down literally at the table and talk about them. And I got to tell you, we have been talking about skilled trades and how we can attack that issue for a long, long time. And not this contract that we just signed a new 4-year deal with the Teamsters into the year 2029. So that's a very positive thing for the community and for everyone. But the contract prior to this, we had significant discussion about maintenance and skilled trades. And we really had reached that crossroads where all of our mechanics, they wanted to do more on the new equipment that we were bringing in. They wanted to be educated. They felt they had the skill sets to do it. And so we spent quite a bit of time in that last contract coming up with 2 new programs that we've never had before. And so we're a 119-year-old company making a lot of candy very successfully all across the world. And we've never had these 2 programs. And one program was just simply a maintenance trainee program. So if you're working in our factory, maybe you're working in the candy cane kitchen, and you have maybe an idea that you'd like to work in maintenance someday, we didn't really have an easy way to make that transition. We didn't really have a test. We didn't really know if you were capable of going into the maintenance shop. We didn't really have an excellent way to do that. So working with our union, we developed the maintenance trainee program, that if there's someone that we just hire or someone that is working in our factory that's interested in becoming a maintenance employee, we have a special training program for them to introduce them to some of the basics, whether that be electricity or, it can be anything from HVAC, pipe fitting, all the way through. The second program we developed is called the Maintenance Upskilling Program, where we take a maintenance, we have roughly 65 maintenance employees in our factory, and we have, They cover all 3 shifts of production. Some of them have been with us a long time. Some of them are brand new, but they all are at a different point in their skill set. Nobody's the same. And we developed a very flexible program that helps them upskill. You know, we test where they are now, and we let them know if you can do this, this, and this. And we send quite a few of them to Northwest State, you know, for more education to get them there. But it is really what it says. We're trying to take where they are now and upskill them in not just the current trade that they know, but some additional trades that we need. And the reception at first, again, we've tried for a long time to get here. I think there was some skepticism, you know, with some of the guys that, like, are they really serious about this? I mean, we've tried forever to get this, and are they really serious about it? And I have to give a lot of credit, you know, to our VP of Operations, Lynn Wieland, and our VP of Human Capital, Nikki Mosier, and John Dunlap, who's also our Director of Operations out there at our factory, and Rod Kern, who's our maintenance manager. You probably know Rod. I got to give those guys credit because those 4 folks sat down with a variety of our maintenance personnel over a period of almost a year after we signed that last union contract and developed these 2 programs. And I wasn't in a single meeting with them, but I would get updates, and sometimes the conversations were hard, you know, but we got to where everybody wanted to be. And so we have these 2 new programs, and if they're showing interest in moving from an electrician to an HVAC expert, adding that to their skill set, we can send them to Northwest State, or we can send them other places, you know, to get them educated. And it's great for them too, because they bump up a labor grade, you know, or maybe even 2. So it's more compensation for them. And it's good for us because we've been able to fill some needs that we weren't able to touch before.
Yeah, I think that really helps with 2 things. So retention for you guys, I think that's going to be huge for retention, being able to keep those employees in the building. Because as you know, around here, community of 9,000 people, you end up recycling employees after a while, because when you're employing that many people, there's only a certain number of businesses in Bryan that they can work at. And through the COVID years, we all shared employees for a little while. Yeah. It was like they went to...
We traded them. Yeah.
We traded them. Yeah. You know, at that time, I was working across the street, and, you know, I went to them, and I was kind of like, you know, maybe we need to program this as, okay, you work here for 6 months, you go work at Spangler for 6 months, you go...
We could actually share employees.
Bard, yeah. And then you can learn your trades in different industries, because that's essentially what people were doing. You know, they were job hopping like crazy in 2020. But I think that program is going to be really good for you guys to keep people in the door. That's a great succession plan. I think that's really important for businesses to have those types of programs.
It's made a big difference, Lee. Now, it's been a big investment. I don't want to, for those, you know, faint of heart, you know, it's been a big investment, but it's absolutely been worth it. And I'll tell you one other story, something that we didn't anticipate, but has happened. We've got 2 young ladies that have joined the maintenance team.
That's great.
You know, Jalissa and Shaylee's in like the maintenance trainee program. So she's just being introduced to maintenance, and she's doing well. And then Jalissa is more in the upskilling. She was already a maintenance employee, and she's taken advantage of the upskilling. And it's a great story. I mean, they get along great, you know, with everyone. They're smart as a whip. You know, they figure things out, and they're important members of our team. And that's not something that we anticipated. And just no one thought that would happen. It's always been sort of a man's world. And I'm not trying to be chauvinist. That's just the way it's been.
Right.
And these 2 young ladies come in, and they've been able to hold those jobs and do a good job. And they're getting better and better, you know, as time goes on. But without those 2 programs, I don't know where they would be. They may not be working for us.
You kind of pointed to it, but with these 2 new programs and probably new programs to come in the future, what does that look like for who you're looking for today? Does that open up the the opportunity of who is an opportune hire for Spangler? What does that look like today?
I think that's a really good question, Cole, because it does change who we need to look for. In the past, we were always looking for folks that had certain specific special skills. And what was always difficult is maybe they had worked for another local company for a long time. Maybe they'd been there 20 years.
We always did it this way.
Yeah. So you've got some of those bad habits, but it was also sometimes tough to hire those people because they've been somewhere else for a long time. They've got like 5 weeks of vacation or 3 weeks of vacation. And to start new in our environment, you've got to work your way up like every other place.
How do you get 5 weeks of vacation? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I don't know. It doesn't
awesome.
happen at Spangler, but
That's
we hear
you talk to
rumors.
your boss.
I hear rumor about people getting vacation like that. I gotta figure that
Maybe
out.
it's just rumors because I've never actually seen it. But
Just so you know, neither one of you would take it.
no,
it's hard.
I don't use what I get now. It doesn't happen.
It's hard. 2 quick questions, and I know they got some. And so just a couple clarifying questions. One was going to be, how many total employees does Spangler have currently?
We have 520.
And then if you could put a magic number, what's the perfect number that Spangler needs to operate at 100%? So is 520 a good number for you? Do you need more? What's that look like?
We're pretty good right now. I mean, we're pretty balanced right now with what the
That's a good term.
with what the
Balanced.
need is and the demand is right now. But coming out of COVID and when all the supply chain things started happening, it felt like we were always short about 20 people. No matter how many people we hired, it just felt like they were going out the back door, and we were churning so many people during that time. So many people didn't know what they wanted to do. It was a weird time. But I feel like we're really balanced right now.
Good.
And we don't really we're really only hiring right now to handle attrition, like when people retire or if they leave the community or something. And that's roughly about 10 people a month. That's what we're hiring right now.
Gotcha.
But our maintenance groups, they've really stabilized.
They've stable. That's good.
These guys and gals are in these upskilling programs, and that's a great retention tool. If you're educating someone and you're sending them to Northwest State and you're paying for their mileage to get there and you've made this investment, they'll turn around, they'll reinvest in you and they'll stay.
Yeah. And then your title, what is, like, at your position, I think we kind of glanced over that at the very beginning when we kind of got on the favorite candy train.
Fun stuff.
But so you've been there for 25 years.
I'm president of the company.
President, okay.
My background is finance and accounting,
Okay.
which probably couldn't be further away from construction trades, but which is probably why I'm not very handy. But my background's finance accounting. I passed the CPA exam back in 1990, which, were you born yet?
No, sir.
I did not think so.
You knew that.
I knew that. But I passed that a long time ago, and that was then it was in public accounting for a few years. Went to a furniture manufacturer called Pilliod in Swanton for 9 years. We were relocated. We were acquired, located down in the furniture capital of the world, High Point, North Carolina, for a few years, and then found my way to Spangler. I was hired as controller, which is an accounting position back in 1999. I'll never forget this because anybody knew, like in the office or in the salaried ranks, they always made you go out in the factory, for a week and just learn how to make all the candy. So I was in Canes, I was in Dum Dums, I was in Marshmallow. We didn't have Bit of Honey at the time, but you just spent a couple of days in each. And I remember one of our candy cane cooks who'd been with us a long time, Charlie Smith. He, after a couple of days, Charlie's training me and he's teaching me how to stripe candy canes and how to line up the stripes. And it's very sophisticated. He just looked at me and he said, Bill, what job are you going to have here at Spangler? And I said, well, I'm the controller. I'm going to be in the office. And I'll never forget this because it was so funny. He said, well, that's good because, like, if you had my job, you would starve. You would not last very long. And I'm like, Charlie, it's only been 2 days. I mean, give me a break here.
So what he's saying is you're better at, hopefully you're better at numbers than you were at making candy.
That's what he was saying in a very polite way.
You know, I like that type of training program. They had it at Allied when I started there, and was out in the shop for a little while. Kind of a similar story. I actually got a screwdriver stuck in one of their pieces of equipment because where the fiberglass material comes out, sometimes you have to clean that out, and definitely got it stuck in there. The lady was like, "Thank goodness you're not going to be out here again." And I said, just for that, I'll come help out every now and then, which actually we did during COVID because we couldn't find employees. So some of us office people went out there. And,
it's a great way to meet a lot of people.
yeah.
And it's a great way to, I go back out in the factory and I remember them and I know them and they know me. And I went from controller to CFO and then now president back in 2014.
Yeah. And they're probably thankful that you just wave and
They are.
keep on going.
They like to say hi, but they don't want me to touch their equipment.
Don't mess it up. Yep. I understand that position. I go out to the field periodically and see what's going on and probably get in the way, cause a lot of heartache on their part because then they're like, hey, if you just didn't show up, our day would have probably went better. So I thought it was just me, but
Sometimes I'm a jinx. Yeah, I get out there and
what do you guys got down there? I know you guys have some questions that you're dying to ask here. So
yeah, no, actually I want to stay kind of close to that topic. So now as a leader, were there mentors along the way that kind of shaped you as a leader and what did that look like?
Yeah, I've had a lot of mentors, going all the way back to public accounting, all the way through even in the furniture industry, both personal and professional. I think probably the two biggest mentors I've had since I arrived in Bryan would be Dean Spangler and Greg Spangler, who were third generation leaders of our company. They really took me under their wing and, almost became like fathers in a sense. When I did something good, they were there to say, great job. When I did something bad, they let me know.
Good.
Just like a father, right? And they've been tremendous mentors. They had been in the candy industry a long, long time. And they both have accounting, finance backgrounds like I do, so we could relate very well. But even in my younger years, it was so, and I'll tell this to anyone, it's so important to have someone you look up to, both on the personal side and the professional side, that you look to for advice and just sharing ideas and stretching your mind. If you don't stretch your mind, it's like any muscle. If you don't stretch your muscles and work out and exercise, what happens? Your brain is the same way. And being able to communicate with someone on a higher level, especially about things like faith and family and those type of subjects, which are always interesting, it's very important to have mentors.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we do really well here. You said you listened to a couple of our other podcasts.
Yeah.
We talk a little bit about our Thursday meetings, and that's essentially what that is. That's Dustin coming to the rest of us as, if you want to improve who you are and how you work and what you do, here are the tools that you can do that with. And so it's great to hear that on the other side too. It's great to know we're kind of going down that similar path, and those conversations have always been open book conversations within our company as well. So for those of you listening, there's your overlap between the candy company and what we're doing. Some of those principles are exactly the same. Find mentors, have open book conversations with employees when it comes to leadership, even faith-based stuff. So you never know when that light bulb is going to hit for somebody. So I think that's great. When you were on your career path, becoming the leader that you are now, was there ever a moment where you thought the direction was going to go different?
Yes, I would say this. I never imagined that I would be, the president of a company like Spangler Candy Company. My only goal in my whole career was to be a chief financial officer because I'm, finance accounting.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's the top level position, in a large company. And so that was my goal. And I was able to achieve that in 2014. And I kind of thought, no, that's probably it.
What pushed you over the edge then? So president and CFO are a little bit different skill sets. What pushed you over that edge?
Well, I think a couple things. One, I think the growth of our business just sort of mandated that, Kirk Vashaw, who's at that time was president and CEO, the growth of our business and Kirk and I are aligned in a lot of ways in terms of how we think about business and how we think about people. I think, Kirk thought it would be very helpful to have, another person, working hand in hand with him, on a daily basis. So he kept the CEO title, but he gave the title of president to me in 2014. And not a day goes by where we don't talk. I mean, every day we're sharing conversations about what's going on in our business and what's going on in the community, which is really important to Spangler. And so, again, I think we've grown large enough. We have a lot of irons in the fire, and it's helpful to tag team like that, because business is hard. Have you ever noticed that, Dustin?
Business is easy till people get involved. That's what I always say. When people get involved, like solopreneurs, being independent and not having employees is hard. And then you add employees and you have stuff and it just happens. And then you've got equipment problems and you've got material problems, and it is hard. And I think the relativity, how all of these connect is your widget is making candy canes and Dum Dum suckers, and Allied makes electrical boxes, and we install water and sewer mains, and it's just a different widget. We've all got the same problems.
Yes.
It's people, it's material, it's breakdowns. It is holistically, nothing under the sun is new, but business is hard.
And there's always that challenge. You want to be the best that you can be, and that's hard. There's no easy playbook for that. And I think, Cole, back to your question, I want to promote a little bit finance and accounting, because I think that helped me. Kirk is an engineer by education and civil engineering background, and he understands finance, but he didn't really have the accounting background, and I think that helped that I had that. And so I just feel like I was there at the right place and the right time when the business was growing, and there was room, for two of us there. And at the same time, we're developing our teams beneath us to someday assume those roles. And so it never ends.
That's great. So you guys you're in the fifth generation?
Fourth generation.
Yeah. You're setting up for the fifth generation.
That's right.
That's a amazing testament for that duration. And you guys probably got a question in there about what
right
this
off
looks
that,
like.
Yeah, right off that vein is this new generation. If we're talking fifth, the elephant in the room is that generation of kids, that generation of workforce is maybe a little different than what you have had thus far, what Spangler has had in the last 120 years, 19 years. Tell me about that, what you've encountered with this new generation of workforce, not with the bad connotation, but just what is different. What is Spangler doing to not assimilate? Oh, assimilate might be the word. What's Spangler doing with the new generation of workforce?
Yeah, I've been to so many, I guess I would call them seminars on, the millennial generation and Gen Z and all these, what's it called? The next one's called the Alpha generation, I think. And everyone tries to, that does those seminars, they kind of try to put people in a box. And I guess I just kind of think people are people, and they're motivated in a lot of the same ways. But one thing we've noticed with the younger generation, the way they like to communicate and be communicated with is different from our older generation. So in the same factory, someone that's worked for us 30 years loves to reach out and talk to someone. They like the interpersonal communication. They think that's what you should do. A younger person coming in the factory, they would rather text
Yeah.
or they would rather, do something maybe in social media, or they would rather, kind of be left alone on their lunch breaks. and not have ongoing conversations. They want to get in their locker and get out their phone and see who's been trying to reach them. So, but one thing I've learned is that they're still the same people. Like there's still motivation. There's still folks that want to do well. I think the younger generation wants to know a little bit more about the big picture. Like, where are we going?
Yep.
Transparency.
Why am I here?
Yeah.
You know,
We see that a lot. Like they may not know exactly what they want to do for their life, but they come in, and I think there's an eagerness to just know stuff, and not like, hey, I'm just being nosy, but they just want to know. They need somebody to teach them, right? And because they weren't taught, they weren't given skills or whatever, they're just curious, and they're just trying to figure it out.
Well, think about, Dustin, all the information tools they have to learn something. You think about someone that worked in our factory 30 years. They were limited in terms of what knowledge they could learn. They didn't have Google. They didn't have YouTube. Like if they wanted to learn another skill or not, they had to really go find it.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, they might have had to go to the library. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the younger people, they know how to find stuff, and they love to learn.
Yes.
And I remember our VP of supply chain, you might know him, Ryan Miller.
Sure.
So he's baseball coach in Bryan. Everyone knows him for what he does for the baseball programs, the youth programs in Bryan. But he and I had a conversation one time. We were frustrated about something, and I don't know. I said something about millennials. I just gotten back, from one of those seminars, right? I said something to him about millennials, and he just said, "Now wait a minute. I deal with young people all the time. I want to change your frame of mind on what you're hearing at all these seminars. I mean, they're real people. Like they have dreams, and they don't just want to sit at home and work, like remote work and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many, we're putting people in too many boxes, right?
Yeah.
And he really opened my eyes. He just kind of hit me upside the head, really. And I just really had to think about what he said. And I've been paying a lot more attention to our younger people, out in the factory. You know what? He's right.
Yeah.
He's right.
I think the generation up and coming is going to be okay. And they get a bad rap, and it's been...
They do.
But I think every generation that is up and coming gets a bad rap from previous older generations. But we really find that we've got some really, really good workers in that younger generation, and we rely heavily on them. And I think they're really good for our corporation and the future of all of our businesses, because they're going to help see it through.
It's guys like Cole. Cole, he probably asks a lot of questions. He probably asks too many questions, maybe.
Potentially.
But people don't know about Cole. When he was young, he was very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I coached him in baseball for several years.
Wait a minute. Cole was quiet?
I know.
He's getting to his point. There's a turning point in the story, I think.
I just remember Cole always being one of the quietest players on the team. Now, he had the biggest heart.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
He wasn't the biggest player on the team.
Definitely not.
Especially when he's a lot bigger now. He was a lot smaller when he was younger, and he wasn't the biggest. And he was very talented, and but his heart is what drove him. Like, he had the biggest heart and desire to be and get better than nearly everyone else. And everyone else had their own things that they were good at, But Cole is like a lot of these young people that they want to be better. They want people to be proud of them. And they're no different than the folks that have worked for us for 30, 35 years.
Yeah.
They just have a little bit more access to education and learning than that previous group did.
So you're alluding a lot to culture in your company.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say your culture is in the company? And is it what you want it to be right now? And then follow up to that, if you can wrap it all up, is how do you keep it that way?
Yeah, culture. I've heard it said that if you get the culture right, you get the business right, not the other way around. Mm-hmm. And that is so true. And it's definitely true at Spangler Candy. 115 years old, 119 years old. our culture is very thick. And it was essentially laid out there for us by our second generation of Spangler family members. They had a very strong will. There were 6 cousins that were on the management team together. I laugh about that because, like, I can't imagine being on a management team with my cousins. I don't know that we'd agree on anything.
It would
ever.
be tough.
And they would not leave their meeting room until they all had consensus agreement on what they were going to do. And it's really kind of an inspiring story. But they really kind of laid the groundwork of our culture, and we have a set of basic beliefs. And just very quickly, we're going to be honest with everyone we deal with. We're going to be practical in our decision making. We're going to be market wise. We're going to deliver value to the marketplace, but we're going to stay independent. We're going to remain independent. We don't want to be sold to any other company. We want to stay as the Spangler Candy Company in Bryan, Ohio. We have, Kirk is a 4th generation Spangler. Greg Spangler's 3rd generation. He's on our board of directors. We have another 4th generation, Gretchen, who's on our board of directors. She's 4th generation. And we have about 6 other Spangler family members and working in our company at various positions, a couple in marketing, one in IT, one in sales. And they're not 5th generation by definition, so they're 4th generation, but they're much younger than Kirk. They're in their late 20s to probably early 40s, and they're much younger. So, who out of that group, is going to be a future leader? We don't know.
Well, that's a good point, because people earlier on, our parents' generation had kids younger in life, and people are waiting longer now. So I see where that 4th generation could be a longer time frame.
Probably the longest we've ever had.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense how you delivered that. You're always developing leaders, no matter where you're at, right? It's here, it's with you guys, and you guys, because of it being such a large operation, developing people really sounds like a full-time job, and getting the next generation ready.
You're doing it every day.
Yeah.
I mean, every interaction, every decision, every meeting is a chance to develop others. And as I come in, I think I hear this said about me in that I'm the first non-family president at Spangler. And that always feels so awkward to me when I hear that, because, I've been there 25 years. Every member of the Spangler family I've ever met, and I've met most of them, a lot of them, has made me feel like I'm part of their family. So when I hear this first non-family, that really feels strange to me, because I feel like I've been part of their family for so long.
You've earned your stripes to be part of the family.
Well, yeah, which again comes with good and bad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've earned it, and sometimes I didn't. But I say that to say, in the future, it's a great thing, because, we might not always have a family leader. It might be someone who technically is not family, but as long as you've been in our culture and understand how we make decisions and how we move forward and how we work together, you don't have to be a Spangler family member. We like to say, it kind of breaks ties. It helps. And there's a lot of really good young, Spangler family members, coming up, but we don't know how long, we don't know what they're going to want to do. It's not easy being at the top. It's just not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of challenges.
Yep, absolutely.
So what piece of advice would you give someone that wants to be a leader in Spangler?
Well, I think it's really important to really understand our culture and how we got there and why we want to retain it. We believe the key to us staying independent and remaining independent and always being in Bryan, Ohio, is embracing our culture and protecting it. And I'm not saying we can't grow and get better at what we're doing. That's different. But maintaining that family-owned and proud of it culture and following our basic beliefs, which is not easy, by the way. I mean, honest, practical, market-wise, and independent. I mean, they seem like easy words, but business is difficult. But we always believe all the stakeholders that we work with, and I'm starting with customers, employees, shareholders, the community. We really believe we need to be involved in all of those relationships, and we try to do the very best in each one, and that's hard work. Takes intentional work. You know, to have a union since 1959 without a strike is kind of rare. And the reason is we sit down at the table every month, a union management meeting every month, and they let us know where we've fallen short, and we promise we're going to do better. But I mean, we have that exchange. It's kind of like a marriage.
Yeah.
You know, you got to communicate. You got to over communicate if you want it to work. And that's a big piece of our culture. So our future leaders have to understand that. And we, again, include them in things at some pretty young ages to get them some of the background.
Yeah.
So they're ready.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, peel back the curtain a little bit. What's one challenge that you guys are facing right now that you're trying to work through from the seat that you're sitting in?
Yeah, I would call this an exciting challenge, but it's a big challenge. You know, for years we have worked really hard to automate sort of the back end of our production process, the packaging, the wrapping of lollipops, packaging of all of our products. There's a lot of automation that we brought in to make us more efficient and reduce injuries and all those types of safety hazards that happen in a factory. And we've done a fantastic job of that on the back end of the process. We're now in the middle of updating sort of the beginning to middle of the process, meaning the cooking process and the forming of the candy. We're kind of moving from a batch processing to a continuous flow.
Is that an
system.
embracing of artificial intelligence intertwined with that, or what does that look like exactly?
Well, I don't know how much AI will be involved in that in the beginning. As time goes on, there could be some help with that. But this is really about modernizing our cooking processes and making them a way for our employees, to use their brains and not so much their backs. Does that make any sense?
Sounds like building efficiencies in taking little twists of the knob to make efficiencies better holistically through the company, where you're attacking one area, you kind of got the packaging figured out, now you're moving to the next part. And so I think even with 520 employees, there's always efficiencies that you got to look for as you grow and scale and continue to do more. How do you do more with 520 employees or whatever that looks like? And so I think all businesses have to kind of peel the onion once in a while, like you said.
Yeah. How is that conversation going with your employees bringing in automation like that? Because sometimes factory work, as soon as somebody talks about automation, they're like, oh man, I'm losing my job.
You know, it's actually better than you would expect, Lee.
Good.
Some of our folks have been doing these jobs 25, 30 years, and they're kind of worn out. And, our current batch process in the cooking area is very manual, very physical, and it's in a very hot kitchen. So working in a kitchen, that's 90 degrees, all day long, even though it's 40 degrees outside or whatever it might be, takes a toll, right? And so the equipment we're bringing in, it's going to have automated controls that they will learn how to control. And instead of pushing a 150-pound batch of Dum Dums around, they'll be punching, like you showed earlier, punching controls on a device. Where AI comes in, it's to be seen, remains to be seen, but we truly are trying to modernize the cooking processes and making them much easier. And our people are definitely capable and skilled and smart enough to figure this stuff out. It's interesting. You might think, automation, you're going to have to lay off a bunch of employees. No, we're not doing that. It just doesn't happen that way. Automation takes a long time to get integrated, in your system. There's a lot of hurdles you have to overcome. Are there going to be, we call it moving the furniture around, like in a particular kitchen, say the Dum Dums kitchen, where you've got maybe, let's say you have 8 people in that kitchen, we bring in the automated equipment. Okay, so what's the best way to utilize those 8 people to make the highest quality product that we can possibly make? And does that mean all 8 people are going to do exactly what they were doing before? Probably means they're all going to do something different. And there might be a couple of them that end up in a different kitchen or maybe a different area altogether because it's efficient enough that we don't need 8 anymore. But our goal, our plans are not to lay anyone off through that transition.
What we've learned here is I might have a good idea. It rolls around in my head, and I tell somebody, and then maybe I think I tell everybody, but I don't probably explain it well. And I don't know if you guys have this problem or not, but communication in business is hard to get it to where it needs to go with the right message and right delivery. So, like, when you're making these changes, do you have all teams meetings, or you send it out?
Yeah, like vision
Videos,
to 520 people.
You might be surprised what I have to tell you because I think we got this system about 3 years ago. Time flies, so it might be 5 years ago.
Pre or post COVID? That's how we time
Yeah,
stamp
pre
it.
and post. This was post COVID. Okay. But we have a system now that it's called Red Zone, kind of like NFL Red Zone, but not. It's called Red Zone, and what we learned is we use iPads to communicate with a lot of folks that are on the line. We communicate efficiencies, downtime. It has a feature, it can take pictures of something that's like going wrong on the line, so maintenance can see it, pretty quickly. And what's interesting about that is we thought of the idea because we wanted to bridge that gap between the older generation and the younger generation. And what better way to do that than using technology? Now, that meant we had to bring some of our older people up to speed on using an iPad, which some of them have never done. Most have, but some hadn't. And we had the young people were like, "This is cool. This is great. I can email this, or I can send this picture to quality, or I can let my supervisor know that we need cardboard." Yeah. I mean, just silly things like that they were struggling. So communication has always been a challenge for us, but we're doing a better job of the day-to-day transactional stuff using these iPads. In terms of global communication about how we're doing as a company and how the industry's doing, we do that once a year at our Christmas party. After we've shipped all of our candy canes all across America, we have this huge warehouse that's empty. And we bring in tables and chairs, and we put together about an hour-long program for each of our shifts. We have to do it 3 times, but they love it. We play games, we have food, we make a great time of it. And at that time, we give them some information on how we're doing and what's going on. And, it's not too deep and granular, but they love to hear it.
Well, and it's a big day for management, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, it's got to be fulfilling for you and the rest of the management team to be able to have a chance to break bread with your team.
It's probably my favorite day at Spangler because we invite our retirees back. So every year we get about 75, 70, maybe 80 retirees that we haven't seen, since the last Christmas party. And, they come in and we laugh how they're looking great, works hard. It really makes you look bad. But they all look great coming in. It's great to see them. And again, they're part of our culture. We have a 25-year club. So I just joined it.
Congratulations.
I just finally made it. I never thought I would ever make it. But I'm in the 25-year club now, and there's about 100 of us that are in that club. And it's just something you can brag about.
Yeah, sure.
But it's part of our culture, bringing the retirees back, and they reconnect their friendships. And it's a great day. It's a fun day. It's a long day.
Yeah.
We have one party, I think, at 5:30 in the morning. Then the other 2 are at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock.
What kind of partying are you doing at 5:30 in the morning?
Cole, we have done
So it's
Cole, we have done everything. We've brought in bands, to play Christmas music. Because it's always at Christmas time.
yep.
We've had like festival games, and we've had bingo, we've had Family Feud, it's hard every year to come up with something
Sure.
new and different. Like,
Well, and
it's
you
a
have to
challenge.
remember 5:30 is probably the end of third shift
It is.
time, so they're wide awake and ready to go.
Right. They're happy that it's at the end of they can fill themselves up with all the food they want, and it's not going to affect them, out on the lines. But it's a great day, just a great day.
Well, we want to be respectful of your time. We've gone for about an hour now, so thank you for your time here. Is there anything that you want to make sure we cover while we have you here?
Yeah, I just kind of want to end with, whether you're a large business, small business, whatever, we're all facing the same challenges in skilled trades. And we have to kind of change that name from skilled trades to something different. And I think they just should be called skilled professions. Things like welding, pipe fitting, electricians, mechanics. Coming out of school, there were a lot of jobs leaving the United States. Like President Trump said, there was 90,000 factories have left the U.S. in the last 40 years. So coming out of high school, a lot of kids felt pushed to college because these kind of jobs had left the country. Well, I'm here to tell you they're back.
Absolutely.
And with President Trump's initiative to make more things in America, Ohio is ground zero for that. Ohio makes things.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Better than probably any other state. And it's happening all over the state. So if you want to have a skilled profession, however you define it, come to Ohio. Those jobs are there now, and they're not leaving the country.
Were you there last Wednesday up at the Lincoln Day?
I was.
And that kind of reminded me of that is I believe that Ohio's future is
Oh, I feel
stunning.
I feel great about it.
I think Ohio could be nobody vacations in Ohio, but we've got to get people to realize that Ohio is going to be the center of a lot of innovation and technology, and new opportunities are coming back.
Yeah.
And they're going to fill these cities back up with opportunity because factories like yourself and other manufacturers that are local are going to start looking at that and right sizing. What do they call it? Insourcing in the United States, and so those jobs are reshoring. Thank you. And I think that's going to be a big deal. And so that's part of the reason why we wanted to have these conversations at the Trenchless Table, is because we believe that there's going to be a shortage of these professionals, and we believe that the opportunity is more about following a passion instead of, well, I think you should go to college because that's the right thing to do. A percent of people still need to go to college because we need CFOs and controllers and people that can do surgeries and things like that. But I think there's going to be so many opportunities in these other professions that open up doors of opportunity, and they're going to be very well taken care of financially. They're going to be successful, and they don't have to maybe go spend all those years trying to figure it out and then get a degree in something that they don't end up using.
Well, Dustin, I got to compliment you on your role on the Bryan City Board of Education.
Well, thank you.
Because it's tough to get young people to do those kind of things. My dad was a school board member. I remember the phone would ring all the time. But my point is, I really appreciate you doing that. And I think what you've brought to that board is this focus on skilled trades, skilled professions, because, little Bryan, Ohio just got a $2.5 million grant.
That's amazing.
To build that career tech center that's going to help prepare kids to do exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
A lot of those kids would have gone aimlessly to college and would have flamed out in some way, struggled to figure out what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
But that career tech center, it's way bigger than we can even give words to describe it.
Yeah.
And I want to compliment you for being involved in that. That's a huge win for our community.
Well, I think we have a great team, and so I appreciate that the compliments. But we have a good team. at the education board, and so everybody's focus is how do we retain some of the brain drain that's happened out of Bryan? Like, there's people that have graduated from Bryan that are surgeons and doctors and high end in their positions that have left Bryan and they've found home someplace else, and we haven't been able to retain them and bring them back. And I think some of those opportunities are coming back, and we're going to see that. And so it's the chicken or the egg. You guys are growing a business, and you need to have a certain amount of people in your C-suite, but okay, what's the community offer me? Mm-hmm. And so the community has really evolved well. And so the schools evolving, the community, the downtown investments, and the businesses that are investing in their own properties downtown, and other manufacturers that are growing and changing, upskilling their employees. So we're all in this together because we've got to figure out how to retain those people and entertain them to come back, because Born in Bryan never left. And there's not a lot of stuff, but it's a good place to raise families. It's safe. It's a fun community, and the heart of it, people care. And that's the fun part about what we do at the school board. And for Spangler Candy, I really appreciate your sponsorship for the things that go on in the community. You guys are great community stewards, and I know that's part of the DNA mm-hmm. of what makes up Spangler. And so we want to thank you for being part of that and really being a success, a contributor to the success of all things in Bryan, because you guys do a lot of sponsorships and giving, and I think it matters to the community. And maybe people just don't know those things, and it's kind of, some of it's done in maybe in the dark of night where people don't know, because you guys don't always take credit for it. But the little things matter in big ways, because you guys are sponsoring things that matter to this community. So thank you for all you guys do.
It's amazing to me. Thanks, Dustin, for saying that. It's amazing to me how many opportunities there are of things going on in the community. Yeah. There's so many. Williams County just has no limit to its generosity. Mm-hmm. It just continues to generate projects and ideas. And it's, matter of fact, I now get calls. I get probably one call maybe every couple of weeks from some other community wanting, hey, we heard about the stuff that's happening in Bryan with the schools and the downtown. Mm-hmm. How'd you guys do that? We're building mm-hmm. homes with the Port Authority. Yep. We've built almost 20 homes in Williams County in the past year and a half. How are you guys doing that? Nobody just does that, right? Yeah. And so that we're getting on the map.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
that regard. So thanks for saying that.
Yeah. Well, just want to wrap things up. Thank you, Bill, for joining us today. Thank you guys for watching, and tune in for the next one here at the Trenchless Table.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.